With your host, Knotty Karate.
Scruffy-looking nerf herder.
And a rotating roundtable of awesomeness.
Go switch off.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes in-depth.com podcast.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Welcome to another episode of the SwGoH In-Depth Podcast. This is episode 41. We have a good one for you guys. I am joined by our regular Avinash. We also have Anahata returning for her second rendition. This is her encore. You guys loved her, so she's back again. I, of course, am Nukin. Zeppers is in the background running the show. And we want to talk about what are you guys drinking before we start off this podcast. So I'm drinking some Coca-Cola. I am very, very sleep deprived from all of the freaking crazy content that has been pumped out. We have Grand Arena 5v5 and 3v3 and then no ships and C3PO. I don't even know what day it is. So I'm drinking some Coca-Cola to stay awake. It is late on a Friday night, December 21st. What are you drinking, Anna?
I am drinking a lavender citrus tea.
That sounds delicious. Is that herbal or caffeinated?
It's caffeinated.
I didn't know that they had caffeine in lavender tea. Very nice.
Well, it's a black tea with some lavender and citrus in it.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. How about you, Abby?
Well, I figure it's pretty close to the holidays here, so I'm having some eggnog with a touch of cinnamon and a little bit of something special that I put into my eggnog for tonight.
Little special, like bourbon?
Or some rum chata.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what goes with eggnog. And what about you, Knotty? Wait, where is Knotty?
Oh,
is he running late?
Not here. He's not here, apparently. Well, it looks like we've got an empty space on our podcast where Knotty Karate would normally be. But he decided to fly away from us as fast as possible on a borrowed reindeer to visit his family for the holidays instead of hanging out with us, which that just sucks. So, I would think that we would be more important, but apparently not. So we wish him a great holiday and we'll hog tie him next time to his podcast chair so he doesn't miss another one.
That sneaky Knotty flying away on his reindeer. So he has weaseled his way out of 2 podcasts back to back. Anna, how does it feel to have to carry the load of this pineapple?
I'm not going to lie. The burden on my shoulders is pretty heavy.
So we have a great podcast for you guys, and we really think that we miss Knotty, and we hope that we can get him on next time. Otherwise, I don't know what we're going to have to end up doing. Something, we're going to have an intervention or something. So on tonight's podcast, we have reindeer flying pineapples who tie knots. We have the final hour C3PO random massage tales from Anna. We have a poetry Star Wars Christmas reading from Zeppers, and of course we have the SwGoH goodness. So let's kick it off, and we're going to start things differently this time. We're going to actually talk about what we're actually doing in the game right now. So we usually do this at the end of the podcast, but it actually makes more sense, we think, to actually move it towards the front because, everyone out there is a player just like us. So, Abby, what are you currently working on in the game right now?
Well, after the last 3 or 4 months of release after release after release, and I have spent crystals and gear and whatever I have left, I am trying to replenish all of my supplies after the events. It's been quite a drain on my crystal and gear, so I'm going to have to start ranking up in Arena again for quite a while to be able to replenish it. Plus, I'm still working on Scoundrels, which I had talked about last month, but haven't gotten around to because of the other things that have come out. But then again, this time I was distracted by a shiny gold object and ugly little furry bears.
They are, I would say that they are the cutest, ugliest bears I've ever seen. I just, it's an oxymoron, but they're adorable, but they're also like creepy. I just don't know how that works, but apparently it does. So yes, of course, the murder bears, the Ewoks, we use them to get C-3PO. We'll be talking about that event briefly later on in the podcast. I'm actually working on C-3PO myself. I geared up the Ewoks prior to unlock him, stopped, and now I'm gearing up C-3PO. I think he's gear 9 right now. Yep, that's right. He's not gear 12, but he will be. And I'm also grinding some Embo shards. I'm about 20 shards away from that 7-star. Going to be excited to run him in some Sith Raid action, maybe P1, maybe P3, haven't decided. And other than that, kind of just like stacking up here. I surprisingly have way more stun guns than Carbantes for the first time in a while, like 3 or 4 stun guns and 0 Carbantes. So go figure. Anyway, so that's kind of what I'm working on right now. What about you, Anna?
I am actually farming a lot of the bounty hunter fleet right now. There's a lot of rumor that it's going to be needed for another ship that's coming up potentially in January. And then I'm also always bloodthirsty for Zetamat, so constantly farming them. And of course, Carbantes, stun cuffs, or guns and cuffs. Oh my gosh, always.
Yes.
And that's everything.
Always Carbantes and stun guns and all that goodness. So that's kind of what we're working on. I think that it makes sense to keep doing this towards the beginning and not at the end. So we're going to keep doing that. If you guys want us to switch it back, let us know in the comments below. So our first topic of the night, C-3PO. So we just kind of recently finished the event, and he's been around for, I think, about, the events just ended, a day ago. And last night. And so now, if you got him on the first day, you've had him for a week. And if you got him on the very last, at the final hour, you've had him for about a day. So depending on when you unlocked him, he's still kind of relatively new. Let's kind of briefly talk about the event. We're not going to talk too much about C-3PO this month, but we will kind of dive into some theory crafting next month when we have him kind of fully figured out. So let's talk about the event. So how did this event compare to Chewbacca? What gear level did you guys use for this event? Was it around the same level as the Chewbacca event? I think I used gear 9. Could have done it with gear 8, but I had to sleep sometime, so I kind of had to rush it a bit. So I got a little impatient and took some of them to gear 9, and I think I even took a wicket to gear 10. Eventually, they're going to be gear 11 or 12. What'd you guys do the event with?
I used the event with anywhere from gear 9 up to gear 12, and that's saying like across several different accounts. So my highest one was mostly gear 12. My lowest one was gear 9 across the board.
So actually, let's pause for a second and let's make sure everyone realizes this. How many accounts did you actually take in to get C-3PO? Was it 3 accounts, 5 accounts, 7 accounts? I don't even know. I've lost count.
8 accounts.
8?
Yes.
8 accounts.
Wow.
8 accounts.
Going for 7-star on all of them, or what was the game plan for that?
I knew that a couple of them couldn't make. One of them is just a tiny account, so that one I didn't have to worry about. But I tried for it though, but I just couldn't quite make the 5 stars. And there was another account I couldn't make the 5 stars because I was trying a different team other than the standard. I had to throw in Tebow and Scout, and it just didn't work out right. And I had no Zetas either. I did manage to get 5 7-stars and 1 5-star and 2 zeros. So
very impressive. And how much did you invest anything in this event to little last minute panic farm, even if it was just like 10 or 20 bucks anywhere?
Nope, not a cent, actually. I was hoarding gear on everybody. Most of my accounts, I had the gear up there far enough to be able to at least get it unlocked at 5. I figured I wanted my larger accounts to get the 7 stars, and the rest of them could get 5 or higher, depending upon what I could achieve at the time.
Mm-hmm. So interesting. How long did it take on average per account Abby? You seem to be the most experienced in this event.
Well, there was a couple of them where it didn't take me any time, almost no time to do it at all. Once I got to that last phase, there was one account that took me 2 times to be able to get it.
2 attempts?
2 attempts to be able to get it. And the biggest one was 67 attempts on one of them. And that one,
every single one.
That's a lot.
my gosh. Yeah, and I was so frustrated. I had to get up and walk away for a couple of hours because it was taking me all day to do it. I tried everything. Now, the one that took me 2 tries was gear 9 and 10. The one that took me 67 tries was all gear 12. And Zated. So, and I tried every variation of mods that I could possibly do. I took them off and added some other ones on, and it just didn't quite work out right. And for some reason, I finally got the correct RNG sequence that I needed, and I just took my time doing one little tiny move at a time.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly what I did too. Like once I took out Chewie and Han Solo, I was like, woo, pause, intermission, break. We have gone further than we have gone before. I am not going to make a silly mistake. And I took my time once I got to that point. Because if you do get to that point, you should be able to finish it out because they are the toughest bunch. I think it took me about somewhere between 10 and 30 battles, and it would have taken me way less, probably like 10 or less, had I not been stubborn and trying to, I think I can do it without mod swapping. Oh, I can do it without, putting a few gear pieces here and there. And I should have just kind of, put a few extra gear pieces, mod swapped from the very beginning. And, it would have probably saved me, 30 to 60 minutes max or something like that. So I would say that was, you could probably do this event with gear 9 or so characters and probably around 10 or 15 attempts on average, plus or minus, a few. Not, I would say 60, that 60 account, or, the account where you took 60 attempts is probably, you had really terrible RNG as an outlier.
I agree. It was total RNG based because every time I would go in, blop, 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 Elder was down. And then it'd be like Poplu would be down and Elder at the same time. And then, okay, Chewie and Han were always stealth. I couldn't get them unstealth for a long time, and then everybody would die. So it was just a matter of a sequence that had to happen. So for me in this event, I was so irritated with the fact that it was heavily RNG based, not skill based.
Yeah. Oh, and we want to talk about, we kind of alluded to this in the intro. Anna, you had a funny story about C3PO and someone that you know.
Right. A client of mine actually came in this morning. He told me his wife booked him the massage last minute. He didn't know until after he dropped his children off. I think it was to school for their last day of school before holiday break. And he told me when he was on the table that he's pretty sure the reason he has a kink in his neck is because he spent all last night trying to 7-star the event. Sadly, he only 6-starred it. He has to wait until the next one to get it 7-starred, but I'm hoping that I work this kink out of his neck.
That's funny.
His wife booked him a massage to work out the kink from grinding the tier 6 C3PO event all night.
And he even told me that she'll walk by him and go, "So how are your Ewoks doing?" She knows what he's doing. She knows what he's working on. That's nice. Yeah.
So that is a pretty funny story. So hopefully, he gets that last star next time around and he enjoys his 6-star C3PO. And he has no kink in his neck. Probably doesn't because you're a great massage therapist. So that's a great story, Anna. And actually, while we're talking about C3PO, how did you do in the event yourself?
Well, I was somewhere between you and Avi. I did around 30 attempts between 2 days, and my Ewoks are all gear 11. I have a Zeta on Chirpa, had him there already. And then I actually kind of rage Zeta'd Wicket. Because I was a little frustrated with all the attempts that it was taking. I had the same issues that Avinash had. My Ewok Elder was going down, my Poplu was going down, and boom, failure. So once I got the perfect RNG, which I honestly think that this event is similar to the RNG for the Thrawn event. I think it was a bit easier than the Chewbacca event, but yeah, it was hard. It definitely took some patience and knowing what moves worked the best with assists and everything else.
So you zated Wicket on day one or like
day two?
On day two, okay.
Yeah, day one, some acquaintances and I do a little speed race to see if we can unlock the tune as quick as possible. And I was getting so frustrated because I could not unlock it. And that night I was just like, okay, I'm done. I'm giving up for tonight. I'm going to bed. I'll get this in the morning.
I know I was one of them, and I was the same reaction. It was like, okay, forget it. I'm going to have to just wait till the morning.
Mm-hmm. So now you have a Zeta Wicket, so you might as well take those bears all the way up, huh?
Definitely. So I love the Ewoks now that I know how to use them.
Now it'll be the bare necessities.
They're definitely little murder bears for sure.
Well, very nice. So enough about C3PO. That was our experiences there. Let's go into the meat and potatoes. We want to talk about some Gran Arena. So that's one of the newest game. It is the newest game mode that came out. And we want to talk about, what's going on. So we've had 5v5 and we also had a kind of like a minimal sort of alpha before that. And now we're doing a 3v3. We're in the middle of our first 3v3 Gran Arena. So we're doing all sorts of crazy things. And we're going to talk a little bit about Gran Arena. So Anna, how did you do in the first, few cycles of Gran Arena? And, do you think this is a difficult event? And, do you see, what are your thoughts on Gran Arena?
So far, I've been kind of mixed on it. I've been a little bit excited. I've been a little bit bored. I've been a little bit bored because it takes so long and there's so much in between. But I've also been excited about seeing different opponents and maybe bettering myself a little bit more each time. I actually won 1 out of 3 this last time. But to be completely honest, the second 2 events between the holidays, work, and just facing the exact same opponent, or not opponent, teams, it was a little bit boring. But I'm excited to see what the 3v3 is going to do, because this is a completely new game right here with a 3v3. Nobody is really exactly sure how to do it yet.
Right. 3v3, I think, is going to be kind of chaotic. No one really knows what they're doing. And I feel like some people are just going to be trying, new combinations. And one of them is probably going to be super amazing. And other people are going to wish that they had used that. And that person's just going to walk all over that sort of, are they even calling it shards? Like what's the technical term of the group of 8? I don't know what you would refer it to, but they're a little group. And I feel like a lot of people are just going to, like when you lose a match and that what mistakes you made and you'll do better next time. I think there'll be a lot of those type of reactions to the first 3v3. Mm-hmm. And that's that's a fair type of thing, because there's no real place to kind of test this type of stuff. I mean, there is the arena, but it takes a lot of heavy coordination and it takes a lot of practice to get the right amount of sort of stats. Everyone has different modding. You can't really relate everything from like an arena practice match to a real sort of GW type of, well, not GW, like a TW-ish GA type of match. So what about you, Abby? What are your thoughts on Gran Arena? You have a lot more accounts than both of us. And, you have also accounts of varying GP. Is Gran Arena more difficult or more fun at a certain GP range in your opinion? And how did you do in the first few sort of cycles of 5v5, 3v3, etc. in Grand Arena?
Well, my accounts range from anywhere from 3.6 to almost 4.8. At the top, it's definitely a lot more difficult and challenging because I'm going up against some of the big boys in that aspect of it. And it's definitely fun in trying to figure out what I can do and be more technical about what type of teams I'm using. That one, I think I came 5th on that one. And then there's one account where I did 3rd and the rest of them were 8th. And that's simply because it just takes time to be able to coordinate your teams, to be able to go in and figure out what you're going to use. And I can't do that 8 times. There's just no way. And honestly, just to let everybody know, they're not all 8 of my accounts. 6 of them are. Well, that's still a lot of accounts. And 2 of them, I help the accounts for some people when they're away and such. So I just kind of make sure that they keep up to date when they're not around.
All right. So I have one account. I hope that we get the test account sooner or later, but we'll see how that happens. So I do have just my one main account, and I'm at almost 4.7 after C3PO. So approaching the 5 million. But of course, when I hit 5 million, the new 5 million will be 6 million or something. So, but that's going to be pretty exciting to hit 5 million, I think. So we're almost 4.7. I am, I kind of want to do a review video and say about what I like and what I don't like. But, so if I were to do something like that, the one good thing and one sort of critique that I have, the good thing is I like the mode. When you're in a guild such as mine, that's super competitive in TW, that's fun as well. But you lose an element of spontaneous sort of artistic expression of using unique teams that aren't necessarily the best option, but you sort of they just start collecting dust in your roster. There's certain characters that are just not the best absolute option compared to some of the more newer recent horizontal synergistic characters. And so in Grand Arena, I can kind of have more, unilateral decisions because it's only me that's making the calls. I am my own TW lead or officer. And so I get to do, crazy things like try and win 3v5 or 4v5 matches and stuff. And if I fail, it's, I don't have to, come with my face down on the ground and be like, I have failed you. Type of thing. So that's cool. I like to try new stuff, and it is a new map. I like new maps. I think the Guild TW really is due for a new map as well. The critique that I have for Grand Arena is that I don't like the matchmaking. So for people that in the current form, I think that we really need a 5th or a 6th fleet commander so we can actually have 2 fleets on defense. And until that happens, the matchmaking is just heavily biased towards people that only have 2 fleets. I have 3 or 4 fleets. And so I get opponents consistently that have double my Gear 12 because they just lack the fleet GP. And I don't, of course, because I work heavily on my ship roster. And so I'm facing way more difficult opponents that have typically, it's an unbalanced matchup. So, and that's been consistent for that. So I should kind of be facing probably players that have 200 to 300K less GP than I do, but it's okay. I like a challenge, but not everyone does. And it can probably become a grind if this is a consistent thing, which it has been kind of so far. So that's my one critique about it. Between 5v5 and 3v3, we haven't really played 3v3 offense yet, but I'm going to say that I probably am going to prefer 5v5 myself. And of course, I love ships. And I think what would probably be the coolest would be a combination of all, where it's mostly 5v5 teams, maybe a few 3v3 teams, maybe even a 6v6 team or something, and definitely having 1 or 2 ship zones. I think that would be spectacular, in my opinion, or it could be terrible. I don't know. I've never tried it, but I look forward to something like that one day. So yeah, what do you know? Anything else about Grand Arena?
The Guild TW, I can either kind of take or leave it at this point because to me, it's just gotten maybe a little bit stale. But the Grand Arena has definitely sparked my interest a little bit more in that sense. And I like if they keep up with the variety that that looks like they're going to be using to kind of spice things up each time. So you're not like totally bored with that. I think what I'm going to do is I'll probably just more or less concentrate on one account, probably my highest two, one or two of them. And then I like strategizing. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of fun. I'm the TW lead in one of my guilds and kind of like sort of a co-leady type thing in the other one. I find that 1v1 is a little bit more exciting and you become your own strategist. And I really enjoy that. Mm-hmm. Being the TW lead in one guild, and I help out a lot in the other guild. So I definitely can come up with some ideas and stuff. And I really enjoy helping other people trying to figure out what they need to do as well. So, and I like the variety that they may be showing in the 1v1 in Grand Arena, and it'll be exciting to see what they come up with.
Guild TW needs to be spiced up, every so often. I agree with that. I did kind of feel a little bit isolated and missing Guild TW a tad, though, by the end of Grand Arena because it's so long and because we haven't done Guild TW in a while. They canceled Guild TW for the rest of the month of December. So we'll see if that, trend continues going forward in the next quarter. So let's actually move on and segue to our third topic. And right after this topic, guys, we're going to have an epic Twas the Night Before rating from our very own Zeppers. So let's get into this third topic here. So portraits, time settings, quality of life features type of stuff. So we've had a whole host of quality of life / sort of cosmetic things that have occurred in the game. So one of the things that's really awesome, the bronziums are in the very front. You don't have to swipe all the way to the right. You can just tap it finally, and it's the very first option. So that's very nice. We also have portraits, or avatars or whatever. It's by your name. There's now a picture of, whatever you wanted to be, whether it be, Palpatine or what's another one? Mother Talzin. There's a bunch of different portraits, and there's even some portraits that you have to, do quests to unlock and do certain achievements that are more, I guess, cooler looking and also prestigious. So there's a bunch of that. What portraits are you guys using, and are you working towards trying to unlock a particular portrait, Anna or Avi?
I'm actually working to unlock the Fulcrum portrait. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm most excited for. Currently, I actually have to do 2 more out of the 5 battles in Arena with Rebels. So we'll see how long that takes me at this point with the meta.
Okay. And then you get to be Fulcrum Ahsoka. Right
now, I'm actually on 3 out of 4 to get Fulcrum. And I'm excited to get that portrait the most. I currently have 3 out of 5 battles that I have to win using only Rebels in Arena. So with the current meta, we'll see how long that takes me.
You can probably pick off a few weaker Treya teams or something, potentially, maybe.
Yeah, I'm sure I could, but that would take a lot of time with the Rebels that I have.
Gotcha. And when you complete all that, you get a Fulcrum Ahsoka portrait?
Yes. And she is my favorite.
Okay, gotcha. I'm going for Thrawn lazily. I'm not rushing it. I like that avatar, and I should have it pretty soon. I'm not in a rush to acquire it. Avi, are you going for any sort of portrait?
Honestly, not at this time. I don't even pay attention to any of the titles or any of the tasks that I have to do. So I have no idea how far I am and what I've unlocked and what I haven't locked. I would like to maybe go for the Thrawn one because, he is my favorite blueberry muffin boy. So.
All right, you can have him. I'll pick someone else. Right now, I'm rocking a Tarkin or something.
I've got a range trooper.
That's not a bad choice.
Yeah, I like the range trooper. Love my trooper boys.
The pimp trooper. Mm-hmm. So we also got a few extra quality of life features. We also got the ability to change your time of day, the day resets, and your arena payout and all that jazz. So you can do that 2 times a year, I believe, maximum on your own. It should be fairly simple. You don't need to contact EA support or anything like you used to. And people have already done that. So that was a very common reason to actually stop playing the game and take a break or quit altogether in the past. And it's very cool that now, because you're able to change your payout to be more, fitting of your schedule of whatever it is, you don't have to sacrifice the daily crystals that you would get and acquire from getting, whatever arena placement that you would normally get versus some other real life sort of chore or task or project or something that you needed to get done. So that's very cool. And I think that's, kind of a small gist or summary of some of the quality of life features and portraits. So I know everyone's very excited to hear this poem from Zeppers. So we're going to go and have a quick intermission from the podcast and have a reading, 'Twas the Night Before Rating, read to you by yours truly, Zeppers.
'Twas the Night Before Rating, written by Avinash. 'Twas the night before raiding, when all through the ship not a stormtrooper was stirring, not even a blip. The armor was hung in the storage with care, in hopes that Darth Vader would never be there. The bounty hunters were nestled, all snug in their beds, while visions of rebel scum danced in their heads. With Krennic in his cape and Darth Vader in his robe, we just settled our brains for a thorough IP droid probe. When out of the ship there arose such a clatter, we sprang from our bunks to see what was the matter. Away to the halls we flew like a flash. We opened the doors and we tripped over the trash. The moon on Endor, with the new fallen snow, gave the luster of midday to Ewoks below. When what to our wondering eyes I see pairs, but a miniature ship and 8 tiny murder bears. With a bit of the force so lively and slick, I knew in a moment it would be over too quick. More rapid than admirals, his courses they came, and Vader whistled and shouted, and he called them by name. Now Piet, now Stark, now Tarkin and Veers, on Hux, on Zarin, on Thrawn and Beers. To the bridge of the ship, to the top of the ranks. Now kill them, kill them, kill them with tanks. As bright lasers flashed all through the sky, the admirals stared at each other to see who would die. So up on the bridge, Darth Vader he flew, with the power of the Force and thoughts of Luke too. And then in a moment, I heard on the bridge, Vader reaching and stretching, just a smidge. As we hang our heads and we're turning around, down the stairs Vader came with such a bound. He was dressed all in black from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with blood and with soot. A cape of honor was flung on his back, easier to wear than an armor backpack. His eyes, how they glowed, is just what he meant. His cheeks were like metal, his nose like a vent. His droll mouthpiece was drawn up in a bow, and the point of his chin was as soft as the snow. The voice changer he held was tight in his teeth, and the smoke he created was quite a feat. He had a broad face and a flat 6-pack belly that so scared us when he laughed that we made us smelly. He was tall and scary, a right sad old elf, and we dared not to laugh when we saw him ourself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his hand soon gave us the dread he had planned. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work. He filled all our minds, then he started to twerk. He laid his finger up in the air, and giving a nod, knowing no one would be spared, he sprung to full height, to his team he did growl, and away they all flew, they knew it was foul. But I heard him exclaim while he walked out of sight, "Happy raiding to all, and to all a good night."
Nice. Yeah. There we go. There we go.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you read Star Wars poetry. Thank you, Zeppers. Take a bow.
Thank you. Thank you, Nukin. Thank you, ladies. Merry Christmas, everybody.
So that was an excellent reading, of course, Zeppers, and fantastic bow. I could almost see it from here. So we're going to go into the very last topic of the podcast. We're going to talk about some data mine stuff. So recently, in one of the last updates, there seems to be some recent data mine info. So if you guys recall, in the Clone Troopers sort of, I don't know, was it the anniversary or something, a month or two back, where we had General Grievous had, a bunch of TW bonuses and stuff like that. So there seems to be Cup had some bonuses. There seems to be some returning bonuses for factions coming into Guild TW. Remember that the devs said that there's not going to be any sort of bonuses in Grand Arena. They want it to be very fair and not be sort of RNG gimmicky, but they will have some Guild TW bonuses. So here is a data mine. We have some information. So there were some Clone Trooper bonuses potentially for TW. There were some Ewok potential bonuses. Also First Order, which is unusual because they already had some bonuses. And of course, they have some Jawas. So to make sure everyone is on the same page, if this is the first time that you're hearing it, or if you forgot what it was, we'll just quickly review. So Jawas are going to do a bunch of stunning, and they're also going to call each other to assist, and they're also going to land shock on stunned enemies and gain a bunch of offense for each stunned enemy. So a bunch of little crazy stuff going on there. First Order, nothing too spectacular. It's actually kind of similar to a combination of Phasma's Zeta leadership with more, sort of health recovery and inflicting target lock. It's a weird combination of stuff, but it seems, decent, and it's definitely better than no TW bonus. The Ewoks, very short. Ewoks have a cooldown of 0 on all abilities, so they can just use whatever ability that they want at any given time because there's no cooldown. And the last one was Clone Troopers. They're going to gain a bunch of health, protection, offense, defense, and for each Clone Trooper ally. And when they don't have debuffs, they're going to have 100% crit chance and critical damage when they attack out of turn, which when they dispel all debuffs on the other Clone Trooper allies, and also I should say cleanse debuffs, and they also dispel all buffs on the target enemy and gain turn meter when when they attack out of turn. So yeah, Clone Troopers are going to hit harder, be tankier, gain more turn meter, and have cleansing and dispelling action. So that's kind of a quick review of some of these bonuses. So what are your guys' opinions? Are we going to see Jawa kick butt in TW? Do you think Ewoks are going to kick? What's the strongest kind of bonus, first impression from this list? Assuming that all of these, things here in this data mine come to pass, which I doubt every single thing does. There's more data mine things that there probably are even in the game. But, assuming that everything comes into the game, what's your first impression, Avi, about what's the strongest TW bonus data mine here, in your opinion?
I think that the Ewoks win.
The Ewoks.
Yeah.
Right.
Having a cooldown of 0. Yeah. Having a cooldown of 0 on all abilities. Those little guys are going to be running around furiously, being able to do anything and everything in their power.
Yeah.
That they can do. Yeah.
I was leaning towards that one too. Being able to just do whatever you want, whenever you whenever. That sounds awesome. And not being able to be in force drain from Nihilus, that's not going to impact them whatsoever because they always will have a cooldown of 0, I believe. So that seems pretty powerful. What do you think, Anna?
I think the Ewok one definitely looks interesting. Also, Jawa, definitely, because 50% chance to stun the target when they use an ability that can't be evaded. Well, that's a pretty good chance.
It's coin flip. It's a high chance.
Also, like the abilities for the clone troopers as well, because they've got a good bit there. 25% health, 25% protection, 25% offense, defense, and clone troopers gain 100% critical chance and critical damage while they have no debuffs. That's pretty nice.
So it's 25% times 5 if they're running a full clone trooper team. So that's 125% offense plus 100% crit damage. Is that enough damage output from where they are now to actually kill things? Maybe.
Well, along with this, it's also that when they attack out of turn, clone troopers dispel all debuffs on other clone trooper allies and gain 20% turn meter.
Right. That's good too.
That turn meter could, I think, really add up.
Yep. I hope that's enough damage output there. Maybe you need to remod them in a different way and take out all the crit chance basically away from them, because they will have full crit to begin with anyway.
Right.
And then you can replace all the crit chance secondaries on your mods and the 2-piece crit chance sets with maybe something more, a bunch more offense or something, and combining that with the extra 125% offense and 100% critical damage. Maybe that's just enough damage output to smash through some teams. We'll have to see how that kind of pans out.
It could be surprising.
Might be able to put a little bit more health and protection on them just to kind of boost them up, because most of them are pretty squishy.
Right.
So
Cody
if they
just
can
falls
survive,
over.
oh, he does. He's a great lead, but he falls over way too fast, and Echo is right behind him.
Right. They just need a rework. Like, can this just be their rework?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Something like that.
I do miss them. That was one of my first factions I ever worked on and completed.
So
and
fun.
They were relevant for like 5 minutes.
Well, I never ran them in arena.
I did, and I did really, really well too for a while, for about 10 minutes, and then it was like I had to switch to something else.
It was between clones and Tarkin Empire way back in the day, and I chose Tarkin Empire. But both options were not very smart. First Order, I'm gonna be making a bold claim here. We've had a First Order passive faction bonus for TW. I don't think it really makes sense to redo a faction bonus for a faction that's already had one. It makes more sense to have a bonus for someone that hasn't had it before. And First Order, not only did they have one, but they had one for a long time. So although this is a different faction bonus than the original First Order passive faction bonus or whatever for Guild TW, I am dubious whether this will ever come into the game, at least in, January, February. What do you guys think? Because not everything that's data mined comes into the game,
Right.
True.
And I think I heard something as well, I don't know if it's factual or not, about a bonus that they even forgot to put in here about Imperial troopers.
Oh, I did hear something about that, but I think that was a mistake.
As you're saying, again, none of it is exactly 100% confirmed.
Right.
Well, in TW, First Order is one of the teams that is first and foremost a lot of guilds have and farm for. So maybe they were thinking of giving a little bit of a bonus to a very popular faction. And because the rest of them are what a lot of people don't have at this time.
Right.
So maybe they were giving like a little bit extra to a very common faction.
Right. And then last time, the very first bonuses were First Order and Resistance, right?
Right.
And right around that time was when Kylo Ren Unmasked was released, and JTR Heroic Journey was around that time for Resistance and First Order. And we just had a legendary event that required Ewoks to get the Golden God C-3PO. And it makes sense, following a sort of pattern that Ewoks have a Guild TW bonus. So that makes sense. And on top of that, people speculated that if it wasn't Ewoks, way back before we even found out that it was going to be Ewoks, people were like, oh, maybe it's droids, maybe it's Jawa, blah, blah, blah. And people were putting gear on all sorts of random things. Some people chose Jawa, and that also kind of makes sense. They're like rewarding people that were kind of, trying to cover their bases, and, whether or not they got C-3PO, at least they got a little something there. So also it's going to be playing with Jawa are pretty fun. They're kind of like, a unique team. They're just not very good, but they are fun. They are fun. Definitely. They're good when you're attacking characters that are 20 levels below them. But other than that, maybe this will make them good enough. The first thing, by the way, just a little baby theory crafting, they're going to shock enemies. Who shocks? Darkseid Bastila, Palpatine, Dooku, and Sith Assassin. And the first thing that came to my mind was a Dooku lead with 4 Jawas. Dooku can stun in 2 different ways, and then they have all that stun synergy. So maybe that's a team for Gil TW. Who knows? Very interesting. Very, very interesting.
Definitely.
So that is going to be that was the last topic, actually. And so are you guys ready to close it out?
I am ready.
All right. So we want to thank you guys all so much for watching, or I guess I should say listening, because this is our podcast. We really appreciate everyone that listens to our passion project here. And I want to thank Anna for coming on again. And we might, everyone write down a comment if you've made it this far to get Knotty's lazy butt on the next podcast, because we miss him.
Yes, we miss him.
I don't want to host this anymore. Let me theorycraft and make jokes and stuff. I feel too professional on here. And Avinash, of course, thank you, the lovely Avinash. Thank you, Zeppers, and thank you, everyone else. Yes, once again, have a lovely holiday season. We'll see you in January.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays.
Christmas. Ho, 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 jingle bells.